That's the beauty of democracy, I mean.
Yes.
With all of its flawed legs in Nigeria.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the state of the nation. In the recent years, we've had what seems to be an endless cycle of violence. I believe that violence is a dangerous thing to any society. In the case of Nigeria, because it is quite foreign to us, the leaders of this country must summon the courage and the wisdom to terminate this cycle of violence, or to our regret, the violence will terminate our republic. So one of the things I intend to do in the Senate is to build bridges so that we can have a vanguard of committed leadership to find a way to the enduring socio-economic problems which are the underbelly of many of these violent convulsions that we have in our polity. I'm also, of course, concerned about what I call the most flagrant irresponsibility of government in the areas of budgeting. Most budgets in this country are acts of gross rascality. You find a government that has only resources in the neighborhood of perhaps 30 billion naira, pronouncing budgets in the realm of 150 billion naira. And from the very day that our budget was passed, it's obvious that the resources to implement them will not be there.
You returned a huge sum of money when you were in the House of Reps back in the days during the third term agenda of the former president. Now you're going into a Senate that is very well paid. You'll be receiving huge sums of money as allowance, and you've criticized that both on the social media network and in writing in several of your public comments. Are you going to see a conflict of interest that you'll be receiving? You'll also be a recipient of huge revenue or huge resources from the purse of the federal government as a senator.
My party may not control the majority of the upper house or lower house, and therefore we may not be able to prevail. If we don't prevail, I have one of two choices. I either can take the money, like everybody else, or I can refuse the money. I'm sorry to say I have this time decided I will take the money. But when I take the money, I will take the money to my constituents. And every quarter, I will announce specific projects. It will not be done in secret. People will know how much I took, how much I'm keeping for myself, and let nobody be in doubt. I will keep enough for myself to give me a comfortable life. I know how much I was making as a professor in one of the best universities in the world. I know how much my wife makes now as a professor and head of the department in the USA. And yes, I'm working in Nigeria, and I cannot expect to make the same income as I was making in the USA. But I also know that being a politician in Nigeria has placed exceptional burdens on me. Crowds come to my house endlessly, pleading for one help or the other. And if I make the excuse that because I have not taken the allowances, I cannot help them, in a way you are perceived as a failure by your constituency. So my first goal will be, look, let's fight and stop these allowances. If that succeeds, the money could now be used to provide good infrastructure, good social conditions for our people. If we don't succeed, whatever is my own portion, I will take. I will believe that portion belongs to my constituents. Because if I were to return it, what will happen is the money will simply be swallowed by others, and I will just be cheating my people. In fact, when I was running for during the campaigns, when I got to Ibajo, I think, in Buluwado local government in Osun State, another man raised that question and said, look, Professor, when you get there this time, please don't refuse money. take the money and bring it to us. Use the money to build our schools. Use the money to do projects for us. And that's what I intend to do if we don't succeed in stopping the allowances. But I'm trusting God that we will succeed in stopping the allowance. Our governors in Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, have been reduced to prefects, like prefects of Elisha Grammar School, whose power is limited to that which is conceded by the school principal. When you have a governor who has security concerns, and that governor can call a commissioner of police, and the commissioner of police can take contrary orders from either the Inspector General of Police or the Assistant Inspector General of Police, and so on and so forth, you find that the capability of the government to enforce its will is compromised. From the very first day of my campaign, I had announced to everybody who will listen in this republic that I will beat Oyinlola hands down. In a nationally publicized debate, campaign, I announced to the entire Republic of Nigeria that I will not only beat Oyinlola, I will beat him in his own local government. The truth is, when people call me a giant killer, I laugh. Oyinlola is no giant at all. The truth is, he was a man who rigged himself into office. He was an interloper. First he reached Akande. Akande took the high road without fighting him, and he made the mistake of rigging Rauf Aregbesola, and as we say in Yoruba, and the man fought him until, by the grace of God, God, who always ensures the triumph of truth, allowed Rauf to triumph. So I was not, quite frankly, surprised. I didn't need a dawning. I knew that in any free and fair election against me or against any candidate of my party, Oyinlola was bound to be a goner. And the results clearly showed it.
How are you going to stop the mass defection of party members to the ruling PDP in case they capture the federal power?
If they capture the federal power, there's nothing you can do. You might find one or two people who might defect out of selfish interest. What we have learned in the last 12 years is that those who leave our tradition for personal gain eventually meet their political perdition. The PDP has been bad for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, for the last 12 years, what we have had from the PDP is a declaration of war on our republic. And it is sad that the Nigerian citizens have not risen to defend their republic against the onslaught of these locusts that have reduced our republic to a fragment of hell.
How can Professor Sola Adeyeye, an icon of democratic principle, be a beneficiary of imposition within the ACN in Osun State? Would you like to clear the air on those?
Absolutely, absolutely. Those who say that are totally ignorant. And members of my party will not be hurt to say that. Because as far back as over a year ago, in fact over 18 months ago, my party had taken a position in Osun State that because we were rigged out in 2007, that all of the candidates who were presented in 2007 will be presented again in 2011. And there were only two changes made. One was in Ila, where the then candidate, Prince Adebiji Adedotun, died. So there had to be a change. The second was in Ede, where the Honorable Ayinde had left our party because he tried to play safe by joining the PDP, and in the end he ended up being the loser. So it wasn't a question of mine being imposed, it was a question of a party decision that had long been explained, adopted, and now being implemented.
So why did people contest against you within your party if they know they had such agreement in the party?
One of those who contested against me was a recent defector from the PDP who probably did not know the tradition within our party. Another one was a person who was living in London who was oblivious to the internal workings of our party. I'm sorry to say sometimes people who live abroad think that because they can bring dollars and pounds that they get to Nigeria, they can buy and oil their way through the system. Of course, I also lived abroad, but throughout my years abroad, I kept in touch with my own base. I was a functionary of the Unity Party of Nigeria, and I've always kept my relationship with the party structure. So when I came back, it was easy for me to find my way within the party machinery.
Knowing you very well, I know you would admit that there are still issues of internal democracy.
Oh yes, there are, no question. Oh yes, there are. But what do you expect, Kayode? Look, you are looking at a system where federal might is daily being used to erode the popular will of the people, and therefore any party in opposition is concerned about getting a vanguard that can defend its party position. Let me tell you, for example, if I had wanted to make money during my 4 years in the National Assembly, I would have retired at the end of 4 years with nothing less than 500 million naira in my account. That would have made it easy for me to earn myself through any party primary. But acting conscience, believing that right is right, in scorn of consequence, I did not do that. So if any money back comes to my party, should my party leadership, out of respect for the stand I've taken in the past, not come to my defense? That's what they have done. I applaud them for doing so.
So you will be part, but you still admit that. Are you going to be part of the process to open up the AC?
Oh yes, we must. We must. No question about that. I'm sorry that Facebook will limit friends to only about 5,000. Right now, I have over 1,000 people asking to be my friends, and I have some really silly criteria by which I choose those who become my friends. I'm trying to make sure that at least I reserve a pool for my constituents. And that's why in the last few months, I've not added people. I wish I would have more friends. Now, how do I find it easy to engage young people? It's easy because I came from the Obafemi Awolowo School, where as a youngster, I will sit with us across a dining table like this and engage us in discussion. I mean, the likes of Dayo Abaton, the likes of Minister Babatope, my friend Odia Ofeimu, the likes of, Felix Adenike and co. And of course with Uncle Bola, I was surrounded himself with brilliant young people. Uncle Bola surrounded himself with the likes of Dari Babarin, Kayode Ogundamisi, yourself, myself, and others. So I came from that school where you don't despise young people, where you know in fact that the younger people often have better knowledge than yourself on many issues, and therefore you must open yourself to fresh ideas from them. And I'm grateful to God that I can say that I have learned from the young people as much as I've taught them. That's why I engage them.
Professor Sola Adeyeye, feels funny to call you Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you for having this interview with us.
Thank you, Kayode.